Answer is no. And because oftentimes what I'm seeing is a lot of people without a system at all. And then
Yeah.
there's fundamentally, you can always talk about the idea of no system is the worst. Any system is good, right? And then applying the correct system and becoming good at it is best,
Yeah.
right? And so from my perspective, Agile is pretty mature. Like that's a methodology that development's pretty comfortable with, that has been established. We have expertise in that as an industry. And so it feels like it's one of those areas where it's very ripe to it. From my perspective, I'll always say, look, any system, any organized system is going to beat no system. And
Yeah.
since most MSPs are in the no system category, let's do it from that perspective. I think Agile makes a ton of sense, particularly because when I think about it from a methodology perspective, it's very good about adjusting along the way. It actually handles situations on the ground very well, like when you discover a new problem or you're introduced to a new variable that you may not have done. This is particularly good in smaller environments, which may be harder to get your hands around, like the entire scope of the project. And it also puts you in a position to be able to work very closely with the customer to do analysis on an ongoing basis, and allows them to make changes in a much more fluid, kind of easier way to work with than traditional old school methods like Waterfall or something along the lines where you're like trying to design the entire thing out, go away and come back. I find Agile is much more modern in the way that approach, and also allows you to accommodate the customer better.
Yeah. Yeah, I really something with Waterfall. Like people, you say about we're Waterfall or Agile and enemies. I think they're friends. But I realized actually most MSPs are not doing Waterfall. Waterfall is really specific to big software development, where you spend like a half a year on requirements or a year on requirements analysis. You do some designing and planning. Then like 2 or 3 years later, you start building the thing. You spend 2 years on that, and then you spend a year or 2 years fixing all the bugs and deploying it.
Yep. I
That,
agree. I use it as the almost extreme example, right?
yeah,
Because I would agree with you. I think they're all kind of complementary, and
yeah,
they are tools in your toolbox. The other thing about Waterfall, and I use it in the loosest sense, because I find that what I'm really implying is that a lot of MSPs want to sit down, design the entire thing, then go off and build and not accommodate changes very well, which is at least thematically the style of a Waterfall implementation. You can think about it works well when the project is really, really big. Most businesses are smaller businesses. Most businesses actually work better when you do some improvement and then make an adjustment and decide what's next. And you work on small incremental changes directionally
exactly.
over time, which leans itself very well to the Agile methodology.
Yeah. Um, but I talked to hundreds of MSPs, and they're all struggling with projects. Like I just got off the call with one, and they got Autotask, but you set up the wrong way, and their tasks are really small. Like deploy this access point, and they're doing 100 access points for a client. They're just polluted so much noise. They're actually using Microsoft Planner to know what's going on. They're
Yeah, and
spending so much
I want to
time.
divorce the conversation from tools entirely, right?
Yeah.
Because a tool is not the solution to why you're bad at projects.
No.
Like the reason you're bad at projects is you're not being deliberate and intentional about it. And that's like ultimately that's the fundamental core decision that you've got to make at choices. You have to be intentional about doing projects and then thinking them through and have a system. Now, this should be incredibly familiar to MSPs because this is all about operational procedures and thinking about the methodology and putting together policies. And it's funny that a group of people that are really good at it operationally wise often incredibly fall down when it comes to these things that they feel is interruptions. Like, no, this is exactly the same thing that you do. If you spend a little time planning, you'll do really well here.
Yeah. Work is work. People are people. Doesn't matter if it's marketing. Like we actually use these methods and tools for our own work with like marketing and sales at at TopLeft here.
It's amazing. I
At
mean,
work.
ultimately, these are skills that are applicable in many areas, like sales, marketing. Like this is just system implementation, and you're putting work through a system. In this case, it's not necessarily recurring work, which is why instinctually MSPs may not be as good at it, but it's the
Yeah.
same process.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember another client we have is they were trying to build up their PMO and looking for resources on that. But what they've come to, like 6, 9 months later, is they let two of their project management people go. Another guy is managing it, and they're way more efficient. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't need that many people. You need less people than you think to manage.
Oftentimes that's the case.
And the more you
It's
add,
kind of funny how the two go together.
it's like the mythical man month. Like Fred Brooks had the old book years ago of you add more developers on a project, you double the developers, you're not doubling your productivity. It could even go down
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah,
there's more
and
communication, more meetings.
exactly, and the complexity is the problem here, right? Because the more you add, you do have to end up with communications and planning, and you will not necessarily, you're not doubling with every person.
Yeah,
You are actually thinking about it in different ways. There are upper bounds of this, and it is often why very very large projects take significantly longer because just of the management overhead of communicating all the parts and keeping them directionally going the same
yeah.
way.